All right, we're going to get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Iannello. I'm the program coordinator for school counseling, and I have with us, who's the star of the show tonight, is Miss Allison Lockridge. She's our college and career counselor at Greenwich High School. The purpose of this evening is to try and help support the class of 2024 parents and students with the nuts and bolts of the college application process. There's a lot of layers to this, and it can be confusing. It's not hard, trust me, but it can be confusing. So if you're following what the sequence of events that you need to do throughout this entire process, you're working with your counselor, you're asking the questions that you need to, you'll get through this, I promise. You're probably wondering how your child is ready to graduate high school, and I will tell you that it happens fast. So we're really excited for the class of 2024. And I know that they're excited for a senior year, and we're looking forward to really supporting them and cheering them on as they go through this application process to their next phase in life. So I will turn this over to Ms. Lockridge.
Thank you, Mrs. Iannello, and thanks for everybody that is in attendance live, and this will be recorded. So we will be talking about a lot of information, but you can always rewatch it. And I did send out the agenda that we reviewed with all of the seniors in counselor advisory. So you have access to everything in a hard copy and in a recording. So, so no need to take notes. And like I said, you can watch this as many times as you'd like. First, I recognize that this is a very busy time for everybody. So I'm going to get right to the agenda. And I'm not going to go through every piece of detail on the agenda, but I'm going to highlight the really important things that we feel like everybody should be aware of. And to start, I did want to just mention we have two evening events coming up in October. We have the college panel presentation. That is October 2nd, and we have the Dean of Admissions from Vanderbilt and Wake Forest. I'll be moderating that virtual, so we encourage you to attend that. That presentation, we will talk more about current trends in college admissions. It's an evening for all grades, so we're going to be talking about things like the affirmative action, ChatGPT, trends, all the changes that have been going on in admissions. Whereas tonight we're really focusing in on the actual application process. And then secondly, we have our college night that many of you likely have attended in the past. And that's going to be Thursday, October 12th from 6 to 8 o'clock p.m. And we do have a confirmed list of attendees on our website, on the College and Career page of the GHS website. And we'll continue to update those as new registrations come in. But I think we're close to 150 admission counselors that will be there already. So we're in good shape. Slight change this year. We will be holding college night in the gym instead of the student center due to the construction. So if you have been before, just keep in mind you'll be going in the other direction and not in the student center this year. Okay, so let's get right to our slides here. Okay, to start, deadlines are approaching very quickly. So most early deadlines are within the next month and a half. Early action and early decision, many of you are aware of the differences, but just in case, early decision is binding. So you will be signing a contract, the parent, student, and counselor all sign a contract agreeing that if admitted, you will attend and withdraw all of your other college applications. So it is a binding agreement. The admit rate can be significantly higher, but it is not for everybody. So that's definitely something that I would recommend, talking through in detail with your counselor. Early action is not binding. The deadline's earlier, most are around November 1st, some as early as October 15th. I think we even had one school this year was September 15th, which was very early. But these conversations about how you should apply should be happening between the student and counselor in their first senior meeting. So we did communicate all of this to seniors about the importance of scheduling that meeting with their counselor in the first, really try to get in the first month of school, so the next few weeks at the latest, to review your college list and just really go through how you're going to apply early decision, early action. Generally speaking, if a school has early action, it is in your best interest to apply early action. It's usually much more challenging to be admitted through regular decision. So we do find, especially in the last several years, that the majority of our students are submitting several applications by November 1st or December 1st at the latest. And then we have the next round of applications, which most due dates are around January 1st. And not all schools have early action. So some students are applying regular decision. And like I said, those deadlines are around January 1st. There's also some schools have early decision 2, which is a later deadline. So maybe a student might not be ready to make a decision for ED1, or maybe they didn't have success in the first round and they're considering an ED2. Not all colleges have this, but if they do, deadline's around January 1st. Rolling decision, what that means is colleges are reviewing your applications as they come in and admitting the class kind of in waves. So we recommend students that have a rolling decision application. Penn State is a popular one, that you do apply fairly soon, just because the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be admitted. So most of our students that are applying to schools that have rolling decision are trying to get their applications out in the next several weeks. UConn has a priority deadline of December 1st, but we always recommend applying on November 1st because it's actually free if you apply on that date. And finally, just keep in mind that merit scholarship deadlines may be earlier than a regular decision deadline. So a good example is Boston University or Boston College. You may be applying regular decision and that deadline is January 1st, but to be eligible for merit scholarships, the deadline is earlier. One is November 1st and the other is December 1st. So you can always check the college websites for specific merit scholarship deadlines, but I would also recommend looking on College Kickstart. In the application summary, there's a great spreadsheet that you can download with all the colleges that you're applying to, the merit scholarship deadlines if they offer merit, and then links to the actual college website, right where there would be information on whether there's an extra supplement or an extra application. So, as you can see, like I said, deadlines are coming up pretty quickly. There are a lot of different layers to the application, as Mrs. Iannella mentioned, and you're relying on other people to get documents submitted. You're relying on your counselor to submit your letter of recommendation and your transcript, or your house counselor assistant, and your teacher recommendations to send their letters. So it's important to give them plenty of notice about deadlines. So in the agenda, I'm not going to point out all the deadlines, but in the agenda, you will see deadlines that we ask students to submit their transcript requests. I'm going to show you how to do that on SCORE in a minute. But we do ask that by the end of September, which is just a few weeks away, that all students have requested their transcripts and letters of recommendations through SCORE for any early deadlines. Now, it is a soft deadline. Things can be changed after the end of September, but we generally want to have a good sense of where the student's applying, so we know, again, when to have everything submitted by. Test scores, I'm going to talk about how to submit those and whether you should submit those. And then the student's responsible for submitting, obviously, their own application. Most schools use the common application, but you may be applying to some other schools that have their own college-specific application, that they may not use the common application. So you could be looking at a few different applications, but most students use the common application for all of their schools. Obviously, big part of the common application is the personal essay. Many colleges also have supplemental essays. I have been offering workshops this week on the supplemental essays specifically, and just general tips on the common application. I do have 3 more workshops available on Friday. One is before school. I do have plenty of space because I'm holding them in the media center. So if if your senior has not attended one of those workshops and would like some tips on the essays and the application, I would highly recommend attending one of those. Okay, so let's take a look at steps in SCORE. So again, the student is doing this, but some students have, pay more attention to detail than others. And so it's helpful for parents to be aware of, what actually needs to happen to get all these materials to come together by the deadline. So first step in SCORE is the student needs to complete what we call the FERPA. It's the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It's very simple. On the right-hand side here, the student's just clicking review and sign. And we're asking, or colleges are asking them to waive their rights so that they're not going to ask to see their letters of recommendations. We do recommend students waive their rights. So this is pretty straightforward. And this is how you request transcripts. So it's very important to keep your SCORE list updated. So this applying column here is how you tell your counselor and your house and your teachers where you're applying and when you're applying. So this student here is applying to Duke University, and the deadline for Duke, which is actually not true, but it says December 20th. So right now, as a counselor, I know that a transcript needs to go out by December 20th and letters of recommendations to Duke. Now you see there's no other schools in here. So if you don't put any other schools in here, no documents will be sent from the high school. So it's very important to keep this list updated. So most students have a good sense of several schools they're applying to. If you haven't added your schools to your applying list, I would do so in the next day or two. And again, you can always add more through the next few weeks, but at least we have a sense of, okay, is this student going to have a November 1st deadline or sooner? And then once the student has submitted their transcript, they can just go ahead and drag this over, into the applied column. And that just tells us that the student actually applied there. But the most important part right now is to get the schools that you're applying to in this column. Now you can add your regular decision colleges in here a little later after November 1st. Right now what we're worried about are any early deadlines, but you're welcome to put in the regulars as well if you know where you're going to apply. And then in terms of recommendations, again, I'm not going to go through this very carefully, but it's very simple. Most students have figured this out already and have invited their teachers on SCORE. So most colleges require 1 teacher letter, and some will allow for 2 teacher letters. So we do recommend students ask 2 teachers, but you actually have to invite them on SCORE because that's how the teachers upload their letter. So these are very simple steps. Again, most students have done this, but if they haven't, this should be something that they do fairly quickly. I will say it's very important to ask the teacher in person before inviting them on SCORE. So again, many students have done this, but if they haven't, they should definitely speak with a teacher in person and then invite them on SCORE. For students that are choosing to apply early decision to a college, the contract is signed through SCORE. So when a student adds the college to the applying list, they're going to select early decision. And then you'll be prompted to add your parent or guardian contact information, and you sign the agreement. So you're going to sign the agreement as a student, and then parent signs the agreement, and then a notification gets sent to your counselor automatically, and the counselor signs the agreement. But the counselor will not get the notification until the parent has signed. So it's important to make sure both of those signatures are taken care of. One last, something to point out that is on SCORE, not necessarily having to do with the application process, but I definitely want to make sure everybody knows about the college representative visits that we host in the College and Career Center. They are available on the student account, not on the parent account of SCORE. So you can log in as the student or ask your student to show you. But it's right under the events and deadlines. And they're basically like information sessions at Greenwich High School. But what's really important is the admissions counselor that is leading that info session is the person that's reading the student's application. So it can be an excellent way to show demonstrated interest. I was just doing some workshops today, and I was talking about college rep visits, and I said one of my favorite questions to ask in one of those visits is around the supplemental essays. First of all, you would want to see if the college has a supplemental essay, obviously, before asking. But the person that's there is going to be reading your application, so it's a perfect time to say, to ask, what kind of things do you like to see in the supplemental essay? Is there anything that I should avoid? Do you have any tips for me? It's a great question to ask. So the visits have started already. There's been a handful already. And they will go on through the end of October, and then they're over for the year. So it's very busy for the next 2 months. So we do encourage students to attend as many as they can that are on their college list, and to keep an eye on when they are. I also send out the College and Career Update each week, which is our newsletter, and I put the upcoming visits on the newsletter so that parents can see the upcoming visits as well. Okay, I do want to spend a few minutes talking about testing. Most colleges are still test optional. The list of colleges that are test optional, there's a link right here to fairtest.org. But I do want to emphasize that it's very important to only submit scores to a school that's test optional if you're within the median range for that college. It's very easy to find now. If you search the name of the college, median SAT, ACT score 2022, it's very simple to find. You can find it directly on the college website usually, or there's plenty of resources out there. If your scores are below the median, it is generally in your best interest to apply test optional. Many students will say, well, aren't they going to assume that my score isn't strong? The bottom line is, if they don't have the score in front of them, they're not going to use it. And so then they're relying heavily on the transcript and recommendations, essays. But if they do have a lower score in front of them, they're going to use it. So very important to only submit within the median. So then what also gets a little tricky here is not all colleges allow you to self-report scores. So you'll see there's a testing section on the Common Application. So if you're sending test scores, you can put them on the Common App section. I would recommend only putting it on the Common App though if you're sending scores to all of your schools. I mean, you can put them on and then delete them when you're submitting another application, but sometimes, that might get missed. So in the Common App section, if you're not submitting everywhere, I would honestly just not put your scores on there. In the college-specific questions, it's also going to ask you if you're applying with testing and what your testing scores are. But some schools require you to send scores directly from College Board or ACT. So this is something that's really important to check with each college. You do have to pay for each score to be sent from College Board or ACT. Otherwise, I would recommend just doing it if you're sending scores to be on the safe side, but to save yourself some money, some schools do allow you to self-report and just put it on the Common Application. If you have any questions at all about whether you should submit, you're concerned about it, you can always run it by your counselor. You can send me an email, and we're happy to answer those individual questions. Okay, a little bit about grades here. So some schools ask, this has been just fairly new in the past few years, more and more schools are asking or requiring students to self-report their grades. So there's something called the SRAR, it's a separate website, and you have to report your entire transcript into the website. Not a lot of schools require it, but schools that many of our students apply to, schools like Clemson, University of South Carolina, I believe does, Texas A&M, Penn State, so definitely several state schools. So it is a little time consuming, probably takes about an hour. This is something that sometimes parents can help out with if they wanted to. So the link to the SRAR website is right here. You can see what schools require that. But after students submit their application, they're going to get a notification, usually within a week, from the college saying that they received the application, and then to log into their college portal. So if you're applying to 10 schools, then you're going to be logging into 10 different college portals. And that's super important to make sure you do, because there may be some extra things that you didn't know that you had to do. So for example, let's just say you didn't realize you had to do the SRAR. The portal would tell you to do that was incomplete. So that's where you're going to really verify on those college portals that everything has been received. Now, keep in mind, we have time, and we have until the deadline to submit our documents from the high school. So very often it's, a student might have a November 1st deadline and it's October 28th, and they're seeing on their portal, they submitted their application, but they're seeing on their portal, the transcript and letter is not there. And then they're going back to their teachers, going back to their counselor. Please be reassured that we will submit by deadlines. We do have a grace period, so if for some reason it wasn't there the day after, there would be a grace period, but it's, we do get our documents out in time. So just pay attention to the portal for the school documents, like actually after the deadline. But like I said, there might be some extra things that you need to take care of on your own. Some colleges also require you to to enter your grades actually into the Common Application. Again, not many, but there are schools that ask you to do that. It's pretty self-explanatory. You just have to have an unofficial transcript, and you're just copying. It's important to be the exact grade. There cannot be any discrepancy, because once you're accepted and you decide to go to that school, you then submit your transcript and they verify that all those grades are correct. So very important to have everything exact on there. And then in terms of senior grades, they are very important. I know seniors have heard that from us over and over again. Quarter 1 grades are not automatically sent, so students need to request them through the guidance assistant in their house. They will be sending out a link to do that as it gets close to the quarter. I will say most schools that students are applying to early decision are requiring first quarter grades now, so keep that in mind. And quarter 1 grades can really help an application. So even if they're not required, hopefully they're strong, and I would recommend sending them. Okay. So I touched a little bit about demonstrated interest. Not all colleges track demonstrated interest, but it is best practice to show interest and be as personalized as you can in the process. So we talked about a great way to do that is through the college rep visits, also college night. Some colleges interview. That is something I would look into fairly soon if a college does offer an interview. And how would you schedule an interview? Again, you can see this on a spreadsheet in College Kickstart, or you can just check each college website. But some schools, when you need to schedule the interview, some of them fill up by early November. So let's just say you submit an application to Richmond, and they have what they call a spider chat, which is kind of like an interview. If you waited to try to schedule that spider chat until after November, they likely would be full. So it's something that I would look at fairly quickly and schedule. You can schedule it after November 1st, but it's good to have some times scheduled. I will be hosting an interview workshop. I invite an alumni interviewer from Penn, and she's wonderful. So we do that workshop together. That'll be close to November 1st. And I'm also available for mock interviews with individual students. So students are welcome to schedule an appointment with me for that. Lastly, scheduling, obviously, in-person visits are an excellent way to show interest, but also virtual information sessions. And even though you may have already visited in person last year, maybe there's a virtual information session on your specific major or a student panel that you can attend. That can all be ways to show interest as well. It's also great to send a thank you note or update your application after it's been submitted. So you may have submitted your application for November 1st deadline and then received an award in early December. You can email the admissions counselor or sometimes upload it into the portal. But updates to applications are recommended. And like I said, a nice thoughtful thank you note directly to the admissions counselor, perhaps if you met them at college night or during a rep visit. Okay, let me just, I think I mentioned everything. If you, just one last thing, just to mention quickly about financial aid. If you are applying for financial aid, we did have a funding workshop last Monday night. Hopefully you were able to attend. But just keep in mind the FAFSA is the main financial aid form that you'll be using for financial aid, for federal aid. This year it's not available until December. It's a new FAFSA. It's new and improved. It's only 35 questions, which is nice. But the deadline, I mean, that doesn't even become available until December. But the CSS profile, which is a financial aid form for private school, for many private schools, is still available October 1st. So parents can start working on the CSS profile as early as October 1st. And then the FAFSA, as soon as it comes out, it's very simple to fill out and quick. So it, that should all be submitted, by mid-December. And I think I got to all my major points here, but really just wanted to open it up for Q&A here. So let me just take a look. Just gonna stop my screen share here. Okay, let's see. So, okay, this is a good, how do all these documents like come together? So when a student enters the colleges in SCORE, they will enter their Common App ID number. So it links with the Common App when their Common App gets submitted. So when an admissions counselor goes to review an application, it's automatically connected with SCORE. So that happens, very seamlessly. Let's see what else we got. So on the Common App, this is a good question about the activities section. This is something I was reviewing this week in my workshops. The activities section is a really important part of the Common Application. It's an opportunity to tell admissions all the great things that you do as a student. So the one specific question was about entering sports and should you indicate grade 12 if the season hasn't happened yet? Yes, anything that's planned for grade 12, even if it's in the spring, I would definitely put grade 12. Keep in mind you put sports, you can put community service, clubs, family responsibilities, work experience, internships, and sometimes even just like general interests if you're really interested in, say, photography and you spend a lot of time in photography. Really it's important to make sure you highlight all of your activities in that section. So given the Supreme Court ruling, any advice on race reporting? So you will still report you have the option to still report your race on the Common Application, but it is hidden from colleges. So they will not be able to see the race reporting on the Common Application at all. If you do want to talk about your cultural background, we recommend doing that in your personal essay, and many colleges have added an additional supplement for students to have this opportunity to talk about their diversity. And it can also be discussed in a counselor letter of recommendation, but the actual checkbox and reporting it on the Common Application is hidden now from colleges to be able to view. So one quick question about the CSS profile. It doesn't become available till October 1st, and once you start it, you can save it, so you don't have to complete it all in one sitting. And definitely some questions about SCORE from parents that you haven't been on, and and that's definitely okay. Like I said, a lot of students are really on top of this. We might want to just do at one point with your son or daughter is just, say, oh, could you just show me your applying list on SCORE? I'm just, wanted to see how that was set up, just so that you can see that they have the colleges in the applying list. Again, it's just a cross check just to make sure that the student doesn't forget to put the colleges in there and or maybe puts wrong deadlines. So if you haven't gotten into SCORE yet, no worries. You can just ask your son or daughter to show you that applying list. And I think that's all our questions. So again, just to close, if your senior hasn't scheduled a meeting with their counselor, please do that as soon as possible. I'm also available for individual appointments with students. My calendar, I have a QR code in the front of my office. I have drop-in blocks. And lastly, like I said, I do have several workshops that are still open on Friday that I would love some seniors to come to. And I think that's all we have. Lastly, I'd like to say a happy birthday to Ms. Iannello, and thank you for spending your birthday with us.
Thank you.
Very generous.
I really just want to, thank you. I just want to tell all the parents out there, I've been through this process twice. Several of us in the counseling department have been through this. So I recognize how anxiety provoking it can be. Even though I've done this for 30 years, it can be very stressful. So please make sure if you're having that stress or you're not getting that cooperation you need from your student, to reach out to your student's counselor. We want to be a partnership and a support to you. They get nervous too. And, and all the anxiety and worry about what's coming up can be very stressful for everyone. So if we stay on top of deadlines and we help support each other, we can get through this. The other part of it too is that sometimes, you may find a college that you're excited about that you might want to apply to later and you haven't missed the deadline for. That's fine too. So while some of these deadlines are coming up fast, there are plenty that continue well into the new year. So if you're really not sure, if your child's not sure, there's still time. So that panic sometimes settles in because you're hearing, well, my friend's daughter's already done this, or when I did this, or my older daughter did this. There's some differences in kids and people and what everyone needs. So we're here to help you. Please reach out. Try and enjoy it. It is an exciting time for them. And that's not my dog. Is that your dog, Allison? Thank you all so much. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out to your child's counselor. We're all happy to help.
Yes, thank you. Well said. Have a great night.